And that type of projection disarms us, because if you felt that you have done nothing in history, because that's what you're reading and that's what they're telling you, then you're not going to do anything.
Right.
Because you didn't do anything, you see. But I am very, very convinced
you've not been given the credit for anything.
Right. But I'm convinced that we did everything, because our footsteps, our footprints, and handprints is all over the world.
Right.
You know, wherever you go, you see African faces, African arts. You know, so that gives me that kind of confidence and the courage, you know, to do what I do.
You know what made me come to your table?
I'm trying to figure that out.
When I walked past you, it was the Heremeke.
Right.
The Son of God in the horizon. That Europeans call the Sphinx.
You're right. They call it the Sphinx, right.
But that brought me to the table. And then when I got closer, I found that there's so many things on the table that is not just the Heremeke.
Right.
But you see, the Heremeke is such a symbol that even though it was on the table, it was higher than the rest of the stuff.
Wow, that's deep.
That makes it to say that the Son of God is in the horizon. Your table is a level table, and the items on the table, there were even items higher than the Heremeke.
Right.
But that brought me to your table.
Yeah, I see.
Now, how do you come about doing this? How do you come about picking certain, you know, pieces and putting them together?
Yeah, I'm informed by the fact that if we made history, and there's records of our history, then we have to take these things and project it in the present. You see what I'm saying? Because, like I said, art, culture, all these things, that's right down our alley. I mean, we've been doing those things. People who are not aware of that is people who don't want to be aware, and they're in denial. But we have been very creative people, you know, and like I said, I don't know. I see today that people are somewhat idle because they believe what people are telling them, you know, you're lazy and you're listless. One of the things about me, they could never say that about me.
Right.
Because I do my work right on the streets, and I show people in the grassroots that these things are possible.
Okay.
Because most of the stuff I take recycled material. All my stuff is based upon recycled materials.
Right.
Because I'm not going to go buy anything from anybody to create anything. Because everything that I have to create is right around me. You see, anything. You know, so that my experience is a spontaneous one.
But tell us again, how do you put the recycled materials together? How do you put it together?
All right. Like I said, it's not me. There was a day, like, for example, I started doing burnt wood.
Okay.
Back in the 86, I think I started, 86.
Okay.
And how I started this is I went back home, and I was looking at a piece of work. I was looking at some bamboo. You know bamboo. Right. And somebody had burnt the bamboo. There were spots on this bamboo, and it, was burnt and stuff. And I was thinking about it. Right. Thought it looked really beautiful. The contrast between the burnt part and the part that was light. So I said, something. I think I can do some work with, create a art piece. Right. With this burnt wood. And that's not the piece. That piece up there across over there with the more. Yeah, this is more sculpted. But the burnt wood. So what I did, I went home. I was back home in Grenada. Right. And a friend had given me a book. He had given me a book called Alienation in South Africa. And the book had an image on it. Right. An image of a person, one of the Africans, who was in a circle, and he was like in tune with the whole circle, right? That was the image. That was the image of the piece. And I took that image, because the image was, he was whole in his environment, in this circle. And then when the whites came into South Africa, that image started breaking up in pieces, disintegrating. So I captured the piece where he's holding the image and he's in the center, almost like this. You see how that image is? Right. And he's in the center of the image and he's holding up his universe. that piece there too.
Right.
So that I thought it was a profound image. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I thought it was a profound image, and I put it on burnt wood. And I think I have that piece still today. I have to locate it somewhere around. But that piece was such a beautiful piece, and people came to buy that piece before for me, and I just kept it because I thought I should not sell it. So I still kept that piece. But that's the basis of me doing the burnt wood. So I used to collect wood.
Okay.
You know, because they throw wood all over the place in Harlem. Everything is thrown out. So I said, you know what, I'll collect every wood and purify it. And I love wood as a medium, and I'll do burnt wood art. Because that art, nobody's doing it. And I thought it was profound. When I started to see, I did Marcus Garvey and all these people, and I started to see people saying, wow, that's different, you know, all these things. And that's how I started to do the burnt wood. And that was before I started making those things. All right? But it's the same mode because it's recycled. You see?
Okay. This is the burnt wood.
That's
here.
the burnt wood, yeah. That's the burnt wood.
Now, this status of the people of Mexico.
Right, the Olmec.
Okay.
And if you want to, because that's a piece there. So if you want me to bring it forward, but
no. Okay. But how did that come about?
That come about because I was aware of that a couple of years back after Professor Van Sertima had written his book, They Came Before Columbus.
Right.
You know? And even the question of Columbus was a question that I was grappling with for a long time, because Columbus seems to have discovered everything after Spain after the Moors was dispelled from Spain.
Right.
So soon after the Moors was dispelled from Spain, Spain was the most advanced European country during that period of the Dark Ages. And they were the ones who sent out these ships, quote unquote, with Columbus. That's where he went to get his ships. But if you think about Columbus, you say, well, if he went to Spain to get those ships, and Spain was colonized by black people, or at least it was enlightened by the Moors, then it has to be something more to that, you know. And as we investigate, we see that Columbus didn't discover a single thing. He discovered he was lost.
Right.
and that's how the islands were given that name, because he thought he was in India. But he was really in the Caribbean.
Oh, yes.
You see, so again, you know, he gets a lot of credit for things that is really false, you know. But the question of discovery, I often wonder, how can somebody discover something and they met people there? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So the Olmecs, these people were there 3,000 years before Christ. Not even Columbus. Before Christ, these people were in Mexico. So how could Columbus discover anything?
Now, we can also juxtapose things. In Mexico, the Aztecs, over there, they built pyramids.
Right.
And we built pyramids. We built pyramids before they built the pyramids. So it can also, there could be a connection that when the Africans got there,
right,
then they learned how to build pyramids.
And I believe that's exactly how it went on. And even more beyond that, I think that these countries were closer connected.
Right.
You know, because Africa just fits, South America fits right into Africa. If you look at the map before the drifting of the continents, or the continental drift.
Right.
So I don't know how they got there, but 3000 BC is a long time. And it seems as though black people was dominant in that period of time in history. Not only in Africa, but all in China, because even Buddha and these guys are black. They show up, all the original deities show up as black. All right, in the museum. You go to the museums, all the original deities were Negroid.
The Madonna,
that's a
child.
very, everything.
Right.
So that's another thing that we have to really, consider when we start, thinking about who we are and our potentials. You see.
Talking about that navigation, because I saw a documentary on Papua New Guinea. If you talk about the Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark, yeah.
If you saw how these people built a boat that could have animals in it, every creature that they wanted, they could put it in there, and it sailed.
Papua
New Guinea.
Yeah.
And they're black people.
And how long that was? How long ago that was?
The documentary?
Yes, and this ship that they built. How long ago was that? Is that recent or?
No, recent.
Recent.
Yeah. In other words, they're recreating the history just as you're recreating it.
That's right.
You know, from here.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
You probably haven't been to Egypt.
No, I haven't been to Egypt.
Yeah, but you creating things here that tells you that your people were once from Egypt.
That's right. Well, yeah, because again, like I said, Egypt, like I said, is nobody does anything unless they study Egypt.
Right.
Everybody goes to Egypt and study what these black people or these ancient Africans were doing. And it's sad because we don't have the opportunity to go to those places, especially when you're from the grassroots and you don't have a whole lot of money. I've never been to Egypt, but I was inspired by the symbolisms of Egypt.
Right.
You know, and in the little study I've done, I'm very impressed because, like I said, you know, our spirituality and all that stuff, it represents that, you know. And in this time, to study any Western religion or any religion that came after the adventures in Egypt and in Africa, you have to, in other words, you got to study Egypt to make sense of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. You cannot understand these things unless you study African religion, you know, including the word amen. I mean, they all say it.
Right.
You know, where is that? Why do they say amen?
Right.
When you had people in Egypt by that name, you see, and that is very important. We have to really go back to in terms of that spiritual connection. So Egypt to me is very important, but Egypt is not the only place.
No.
The whole continent to me represents some degree of wisdom. There's wisdom in everything, you know, especially the people who are considered most primitive. You know,
the people of South Africa?
Yeah, you know, because
the white people call them the Bushmen.
Yeah, the primitive and all this other kind of stuff.
Right.
You study those people, you go among them and you start understanding their nuances and how they operate and stuff, and you see that these are the most beautiful people on the face of the earth. Most contented, living with not much, but is satisfied, you know, and all the pathologies that we have in Western society and we so civilized and so developed, they don't have that stuff in their society. These people are mentally stable, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not until the Europeans come in there and interfere with them that all these pathologies and, you know, all the different things that, you know, people are suffering right now, you know, the drinking and, you know, all the, you know, alcohol and all that stuff. But these people are living in harmony with nature. They knew everything. I mean, they was happy people.
Yes.
And to me, they inspire me more than anybody else, even the Egyptians, because basically, when you have nothing and you got to work with nothing, that to me is very, very profound.
That's an achievement, an accomplishment.
That's right. And that's from the same aspect in which I operate, because I have nothing. You know, and when you come to my table, you see things on there. You see things on my table, but these things are things that I take out of the nothing that surrounds me, and I make them.
What kind of people come to your table, and what kind of how do you exchange ideas?
I can tell you what kind of people don't come to my table. People who are concerned with name brands, commercialism, and all that stuff. They can't even see what I have on my table. People who are commercially minded. The people who come to my table and who support me are people who are culturally minded.
Okay.
You know, if you have a culturalized, then you might see something on my table.
Right.
Even though I sell things for the commercial minded too, because there are things I get there and I know they will, you know, the glitters, you know, blah, blah, blah. But basically the people like how you came and you saw something there.
Right.
There's very few people that pass and see anything. Because when your cultural eyes is closed, only the Creator can open it for you.
Right.
You can't see, you know. And for a long time, even before I started doing art and stuff, I was running around sort of wondering, you know, where do I stand? Because everything is, you know, black people are discriminated against in every aspect. So you want to get something that, you know, you could hold on to and say, this is mine, you see?